All right, all right. We are live. Oh man, super excited. Got my man Brad Williams on the call today. Brad, what is going on, dude?
What's up, Pat? Man, I'm excited. This is like something we've been waiting to do and talk about and put out there for a while. I don't know when we first started talking about this, but it was a while
It's a
ago.
while ago, that's for sure. A lot of work. But hey, man, we're here, right? So super excited to be sharing this. Like, it was so much fun, traveling with you, hanging out with you, and then meeting the people. Like,
Yeah.
I've always wanted to do this, and then seeing it come to fruition, like, amazing.
Pat, I feel like in our time, like out there while we were traveling, I think you already knew that it was going to be about the people going into this. Our initial vision for this whole grit thing was like, we need to show like the really big projects. We need like some like high stakes footage. We need, people hanging off the sides of buildings. It's like, I'm in my mind, it was like, how do we do like the Jimmy Chin, high stakes kind of point of view of this?
Yeah.
But when we got out there, it was like, who cares if we even get that part? Not that it's not cool and not that we're not gonna do more of that.
Yeah.
But it was the freaking awesome people that we met. Like, I was so blown away with the people we spent time with. I mean,
Yes.
and maybe most so like Mike and Eugene, the
Yeah.
guys out there doing it. Like, yeah, Jonathan Brackney. Yeah, I mean, if your company had a Jonathan Brackney, you're going to be successful, right? Like, that
For
dude
sure.
was awesome. I mean, Yell say, I know they've got a bunch of people in their leadership that we didn't interview. Jeremy obviously is amazing at finding talent, all those things, but like,
Yeah.
getting up there in the basket with Eugene, talking with Mike, these guys that like really make these big projects happen. That was the part that blew me away. And I think you knew that. It's like once you had talked, you're like, yeah, yeah. And I didn't. I was surprised. I was so surprised with this.
Yeah, there's so much like history behind it because like you said, like the projects are great and everything, but it's like how do you execute those? Like who are the people that are executing these projects? Because we've done multiple projects across the country and it takes a certain person, right? From the leadership standpoint to the, orchestrating it, dispatching all those vehicles going out when we were down there, like there has to be those people that are pushing this massive entourage out there, and it takes a lot of effort. And it's cool because like what are their backgrounds, where everybody has a story, and it's really cool to be able to capture that and like talk to these guys that especially for me because I'm in the industry, and they're like, okay, I can talk, I can relate, and then they open up. And for you, like going up in the basket, right? And like,
Yeah.
doing the work and them teaching you and then them being proud of what they're doing because like what we do matters. I mean, our industry, from anywhere from cleaning a garbage truck, because, I've done that, right? Like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
dump, and you don't think about the things that we're cleaning, and the general public doesn't look at that, right? For safety purposes, for aesthetics, all the things. And so, yeah, really cool stuff to be able to dive in, talk to these folks, why they're here. And we have that one interview, and it touched me because they're like, I have 126 families
Yeah. Yeah.
is why I show up every day. And it's
Yeah.
like, holy cow.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you really hit on it when you said like the pride that these guys take in their work. I was really blown away when we were talking with Mike and he was talking about you. I think you asked him in an interview while we were chatting, like, what kind of person does it take? And the thing that stood out to me was not the risk tolerance, which is kind of where my mind was at, right? Like, I know we kind of joke and we played up a little bit of the fact that like I'm not great with heights at all.
Yep.
But it wasn't the risk tolerance, it was the way that they trust each other.
Yes.
And like this like really tight relationship, like how they can communicate without saying anything and and put each other in these situations and do it. And it was like, this is something special. Like when people work in that kind of team. And like it definitely reminded me of like the type of trust in relationships. Like, I don't know if you've ever read any of like Jocko Willink's book, like Extreme Ownership or whatever. And he
Oh yeah.
tells us stories about like what it's like for operators to work together, but in a different and maybe smaller way. That same kind of like bond and trust happening out there with these guys that are doing rope descension and getting on the swing stage, which is way more dangerous than I had any idea.
Yeah.
You know,
it's no joke, man. It's definitely no joke. I think for the viewers too, right, that are watching, we should play just that one video. So let's talk about this project, because we're not talking about a residential home here. Like when you're talking about rope, descension and stuff like that, and you're talking about a team coming together and talking about lifts and heights, and there's a lot that can go wrong, with wind. I know when we were doing the 12-story Marriott, we literally had the largest crane. It came from Colombia, and I'll never forget this, dude, because we're up there, and I had my foot on his, in his chair, and then on the platform, and I remember the wind was picking up, and the crane started moving, and I was standing there, my foot's moving in, in his seat, basically, right where his platform is, and I'm like, the crane is moving, and he's like, wait, what? And he looked down, and dude, his eyes got big as saucers, and you're talking, huge crane that's like not far from the top of the building, because we had a guy over the other side of the building. You couldn't see him. We were talking over walkie-talkie. Dude, his eyes got so big, they ended up having to shut the whole crane down. It was an electrical issue. And so,
oh man,
you never know what could happen. So you talk about a project that is that big, that complex, and the camaraderie where the trust is there and the culture's there for that team to shine. Like, there's a lot going on.
Yeah, there is. I'm just thinking about what that would have felt like. My eyes would have been as big as saucers. But let's play this. I think this will give a little bit of context of kind of where we were and what we were doing, with the whole Project Grit thing. So here, let's see if this works. All right. I brought the file up. Do you have to put it in Duval County Court?
Here it is.
I know they say pictures never do it justice. Dude, pictures did not do this justice. Like, it's hard to appreciate the immensity of this building until you're standing next to it. Is, right? Which had me wondering, how do you approach a job like this? Yeah, so this building, I mean, what is it? It looks from the outside, from those pictures, like maybe it's like 5 or 6 stories tall, but it's got to be like 12 or 14.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, I think it was around that 13 on the backside.
Yeah, it's a big building. Takes up at least it's like a double city block. Yes. I remember we were looking at pictures of this, so like a little bit of insight. So like a little bit behind the scenes of the whole thing. Our original plan, because we were very much like project focused, right? Like, how do we show something really cool? Like, we want to do a docuseries. We want to dive into what makes the pressure washing industry so amazing. And so the original plan was to do the Jag Stadium.
That's right.
And that's what it was. About 10 days before we left, everyone was booked to travel. Everything was done when we found out that was not going to be possible. Yeah. And this was the backup project. And I went and looked at pictures of it, and I'm like, I remember Ryan, and Ryan has been like totally like he's like, oh, do we even want to film that? And I'm like, I don't know. It looks kind of cool. And when we got there, I know I'm saying this in the voiceover, but it's not just for me to hear myself talk. When we got there and stood next to the building, I'm like, wow, this is a monster of a building. And they were washing the whole thing and doing restoration on the windows for that whole building. There's a lot of a lot of glass.
There was.
Yeah, it really was no joke of a project to put that together. And then it was an active courthouse. Yeah. So there are people walking around below that thing, and they were talking. I mean, we're talking about, it's windy in Jacksonville, Florida, and they start spraying stuff, and it ends up like 3 or 4 blocks down the street on something else. Yeah. So not an easy project to approach.
Yeah. No, it was cool because like you said, it was like a giant wind tunnel, right? And so some of those areas, because there was other buildings there, were casting shadow. There was a lot going on. Like you said, it was active. So people were coming out those back doors. We were on that section, and there were some things they couldn't do. And so adapting, I think, to those situations are pivotal. You know what I mean? Because if they get to a situation where they got to move to a whole, they got to move everything. And so really executing a project like that, is difficult, and you got to be able to have the team that's willing to be able to pivot in those moments when they show up that day and the weather's different. I mean, there's so many moving pieces for sure.
Yeah, and we experienced that like firsthand. So we get there and I don't know if we have it in one of these clips. Um, but I think we alluded to uh let's see here, plans change. There's more me like kind of messing up on the thing, but we were supposed to go up. So like on the like the building has like multiple layers, and so you kind of get up on the roof of the first section of the building, and
Mhm.
then there's about 100 feet above
In the
that.
Duval County.
I wanted to show the picture. If we have just the picture, we might be able to pause it maybe.
Yeah, bring that up and let's see if we can pause it right here. I know they say pictures, county courthouse. Here we go. So yeah, you have this section right here. And so this is like, you get up on this roof and then they have to clean this. It's about 100 feet. Okay, nobody can see my cursor. I'm over here like demonstrating with the cursor. Nobody can see my cursor. But in this like second section above that, it's probably about 100 feet there. They have to clean. Well, you can't see it real well in this picture, but this middle section goes back in, I don't know, 20, 30 feet. There's overhang. So this top section is like out over top of that section. So they had a swing stage, on anchors up here, but when it's going through that middle area, it's literally like a swing. There's nothing for it to attach to there. So it creates kind of this whole thing. Like they have to, really getting it up above that to get that upper section. Well, that's what we had planned to do was get on the swing stage, film cleaning that upper section, which would be awesome. I'm sure you would have gotten some like legit reaction from me. I think it would have been really cool just to be up there. Like we're really excited about it. I didn't realize we were going to be pushing the weight limit of the swing stage to do that until we were standing there. And that was the plan. It was like, oh, this is really, really cool. Well, we get up there and the wind, it's like sustained winds that day were like 30 plus mile an hour.
Yeah.
And like when you're filming a project like this, like we only had 2 days before the film crew had to go their separate ways. Like 1, budget, 2, scheduling. We had 2 days.
Yep.
And this was the day. The next day it was going to rain all day. This was the day. We're standing there. And I remember Mike looked us in the eye and he's like, we're not going up there.
Yeah.
It's too dangerous. And I have since watched some videos of what happens when a swing stage gets loose. It's not a good thing.
No.
It's not a good thing. It's not like, oh, this is a little dangerous. It's like really ugly.
Yeah.
So yeah. And so, we're talking about having to pivot. Like we got there and our plans were to do this one thing. And then it was like, no, we can't, we're not filming that today. And that was our big, that was the money shot, right? For the project was to get up on that swing stage.
Yeah, it really was. It was kind of disappointing, not gonna lie. I was like, dang, because I wanted to see you up on the swing stage for sure. But we roll with the punches, you know what I mean? We got a lot of good footage though, and I think everybody will see that in the intro video later on. But yeah, it was awesome, especially having Steve Blight there. Racenstein, that was an epic conversation I got to have with him on window restoration, what to look for on those buildings, which was really cool.
All right, so let's play a clip of you and Steve. Like this was so good. Like we are gonna have to release some extra takes, some deep cuts here. Let's see, Pat and Steve. So this is like the beginning of the morning. I loved this whole sequence. This was like so much fun.
One, start of the day.
Yeah. Like, is this up to your standard of clean? Because we see this a lot in our industry.
I also want to make sure it wasn't your work. Well, you could have one.
Dude, that was so funny. We're out there standing on the sidewalk, and I'm like, yeah, we can't put this in the final video because, like, I don't know who cleaned this to begin with, but it wasn't good. It wasn't good out there on the sidewalk. I don't think Chris Quinn had anything to do with that, but
yeah,
I was like,
person that knows how to use the acids, and another person that knows how to do all the bleach work for organics. And so when are they both going to be here?
Yeah. because you don't want both of them at the same time.
That would not be good.
That would not be good, because then you got mustard gas. A lot of times
So
on a
Pat, I have
courthouse.
to ask you, is that right? Is that correct that if you mix those two things, it gives you mustard gas?
Yes, if you mix bleach and acid, you actually get mustard gas. Yes. Don't ask me how I know. Probably don't want you covering the security cameras.
That might be an issue.
That might be an issue. So
Where'd that guy go? I don't know. The camera was covered. Told you we should have done this
we were
before.
just getting good.
We were going after it here.
Yeah, that was so good. Like, there is so much wisdom in that. You know, in a final production of this, like, you know, we get like a good glimpse of like some of the nuggets.
Mm-hmm.
But there is definitely like these conversations that happened like beyond what makes the final cut or whatever. So I think we're going to need some director's cut footage. Like, that was a totally ungraded. That was just out of camera. I just grabbed that for everybody to see. But
Yeah.
I think we're going to need like some director's cut of like you and Steve talking about. I know you guys like went through and like did like a rig walk and some of these things that didn't make the final cut of the story, but are just gold.
Yes.
For sure. Steve was awesome. He was a huge support in this project.
Yeah, he was. And I think, you know, having, you know, because we're going to have a lot of stuff in there, and those things too, the viewers are going to want to watch, because they're going to want to look at the rigs, right? They're going to want to know how to clean these big buildings. And so some of those will probably get sprinkled out in the next couple, you know, shoots we take. But yeah, it was really cool to, you know, talk to him, get what he's got going on, and put his expertise in, like getting those experts, you know, as far as the cleaners that are being used for those restoration jobs for windows and whatever, even the sealant on the building, right? It's Sherwin-Williams.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that was really cool. That was the other thing they were doing with that building. Not only were they cleaning it and doing the window restoration, but they were putting a sealant on that whole building. Now, was the building concrete or was it stone?
It was well, the bottom was definitely concrete. It might have been that like gas type stuff, but I'm pretty sure it was concrete. I think the building was concrete.
And you know what we had found out, and this is like some inside baseball, that like we have to be careful like what goes on like the final cut of a Grit episode.
Mm-hmm.
But what we had found out is that building was built, what was it, 15 or 20 years ago.
Yep.
And because of the way that budgets happen for a county structure, is they had the money because it was in a bond to build a building, but then there's no budget line to keep that building clean. And so the building had not been cleaned or sealed ever. And it was at least 15 years. And you got up there and you're like, you would have thought the building was like 30 or 40 years old because of the amount of organic growth on it, because it had never been sealed or cleaned at all.
And the deterioration. Yeah. From where the water was running, you can see it on the, you know, that cast where it's just been running and the mold and mildew has really been eating at it. And so that's where me and Steve were talking about setting expectations, you know, because those are things that the building owner might, or facilities managers like, oh, I want it looking brand new, right? Well, if we could reverse aging, you know, I'd be on a beach in Tahiti, man.
Yeah.
So, you know, you got to set those expectations for jobs like that too. What can come clean? What can't come clean? You know, what can we, you know, do as far as oxidation? There's so many things, so many different surfaces that need to be addressed.
Yeah. Yeah. It was very interesting, and the realities of what someone might face in a project like that, and trying to bid it, right? Like, and setting the difference between like, what do I bid? What are the expectations? What does that look like? Because it's not as just simple as saying, hey, like, oh, we'll just clean this and make it look new, and you know, it's whatever, right? Like setting those expectations of what's possible and what you might be walking into, you know, with something. Because you think about, I have no idea what that building cost to build, but it was a lot.
Yeah. And
to think that, like, that kind of blew me away, that like there was the budget to build what had to have been a, I don't know, $75+ million building.
Yeah.
And no one thought to like protect it or clean it. Like, what?
It blows my mind. It's crazy though, because you'll be surprised how many times that happens too. Because when we put in unsolicited proposals, like we put in the budget numbers. So then the next year, guess who they're calling? Us, because it wasn't in the budget. And they're like, oh, actually, it is in the budget because I put the number in the budget. So people don't realize that. These are like little things we want to sprinkle in, you know what I mean? Keep our viewers watching.
Yeah. 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 Good lands.
But, going back to it, the people, right? Like when we get into a project like that, it's really neat to see them execute it. You know what I mean? Like to put it in that hands, right, of the manager and the safety officer and seeing them work together and, moving the lifts down the road, how they do that, right? Like there's a lot. There's a lot to it.
Yeah, there is. Let's check out Mike here. We talked a lot about him. He's quite a character, man. He was like the coolest dude out there.
Yeah, Mike was awesome.
Is Mike. Mike is not your average window cleaner. As a state licensed acupuncturist and thrill seeker, Mike is the team leader out here and one of the coolest guys I've met. Yeah, so you can see what we were talking about earlier here. Like the swing stage, there's about a 50-foot gap here vertically, and then there's nothing for it to go on. It just has to swing up over this. But yeah, Mike was telling us that we're out there, and I don't know who asked him, like, hey, what's your background? I think you had talked to him about it. He's like, yeah, I'm an acupuncturist by trade. And he was like a bit of a thrill seeker. And then that turned into, I don't even know how he got with it, but I think he knew somebody that knew Jeremy. And ended up here doing this. And I think that is like, what a crazy path to get to this career.
Yeah. You just never know. And that's the beautiful part of it, right? Is like, how did we get here? And you never know how life's going to take you. And that's what I'm talking about is like the stories and the past of each team member and how they did get here. How did they arrive here? Right. And you wouldn't think in a million years that an acupuncturist, right? Like that does a little bit of seeking, thrill seeking, rock climbing, now is rappelling off, 140-foot buildings and just loves it, loves his team, loves to pour into his team and just building leaders under him is really cool to see.
It is really cool. And I loved, he shared a little bit about like when he sends pictures of what he's doing, people ask him what he's up to now, back to like friends and family and stuff. And it's like, how much pride he takes and like how cool it is what he gets to do every day as a job, right? Like he's getting paid to do what he was doing on the weekends for fun, but it's his job now. And I think that's right. It's probably not the job for me, but it is perfectly suited for Mike. And he manages all the logistics out there. It's not just him like going up in a swing stage or dropping off the side of the building. Like he manages a very complex job site with a lot of stakeholders and a lot of requirements, whether it be safety, liability, and logistics, that are pretty intense at a place like that.
Yeah. And you still, with all those policies and, red tape that you got to jump through, but his passion, right? Like shined with what he did and how he did it. And he talked about, the soft wash and he talked about all the things, right? But his passion was there. Like he was on fire for it. I was like, man, this is what I'm talking about.
Yeah, he was. And I think it's like, if we don't go out there, like this whole thing, like we're doing this grit series, right? Like, so our vision for this is a full blown, season where we explore the whole industry, where we go around the country, you and I, and we meet the people. And if we don't do this, guys like Mike and what they do, and we don't celebrate it and show it, like, I don't think anyone would ever even see it. I don't think anyone would ever know. And I think that's probably the thing I'm most proud of with what we're doing here is that we're celebrating an industry that I think is a bit unsung, right? I think the average Joe homeowner, whatever, thinks of pressure washing as just the guy that comes and washes the house or the driveway and doesn't even really realize like what's involved in doing a good job with that. It's more than I would have thought, right? Before I was around the industry, I would have thought, yeah, you just put a lot of pressure through a hose and you just, do it. But it's be more than that. But bigger than that, there's like this whole industry that's keeping our neighborhoods and our facilities safe and clean and all that. And it matters.
Yeah.
And it matters. And I think it's part of that blue collar backbone of America that like I grew up around and I think needs more celebrating. And so like when we talk with guys like Mike, it's like that's what drives me in this whole thing is we get to celebrate him because I think him and Eugene, I think like they're freaking heroes.
Yeah.
With what they do. So
I agree, man. I mean, it all goes back to small businesses, the backbone of America, right? And sharing those stories and the passion and, the grit, right? That got them where they are today because,
yeah.
who would have thought that we talk about the huge convention and we got all these big organizations in these communities, right? And it's like, there's so many stories. And like you said, bringing it to light and sharing that, right, is like it's that proud moment that they can take this and say, "That's me, man. That's me on that video," right? And
Yeah.
showing it to their family and their friends, and it's not just a pressure washing guy, right?
Yeah.
It's not anymore, anyway.
Exactly. And speaking of people, let's show this here talking about why it matters.
Why
You
is
brought
what you do matter?
Yes.
Let's see. 170 families going home at the end of the day happy. Acknowledging what they provide and what we can provide for them. Why does it matter? I always want to leave something better than I found it.
floored me.
Goosebumps, dude.
Yeah. Just, seeing the pride that he takes and the way he really is caring for 170 families.
Yeah.
Like that does matter, right?
Yeah. 1000%.
And everybody that we talked to there, we weren't prompting anyone with anything. Like we were just asking questions. And every single person we talked to, whether it was on camera or off camera, and we're like, why is Crystal Clean successful? Why does this matter to you? What do you love most about being here and doing what you do? And every single one of them gave us a version of, it's the people I work with. It's the people here that make it so successful. It's the people that I love to come work with. That's why I love this job so much.
Yep.
I didn't see that coming.
No. You hear all the things, right? The company culture, and you hear all the things, but to see it in a light like that it's real, right? Like, man, it gives me goosebumps because that's what it's all about. Like, we have companies, right? And we pour into our people, and it comes from the leadership level and then it trickles down and you can see it through and through. And, for him to show up every day, that's what it takes to run a company like that, is to have that mindset, like going in. And, he had a military background, and that's where that mentality, you know what I mean, is sticking in that organization, is like, we have an after action report. Did we mess up? How do we make it better each day? And, for everybody to be on the same page and have that mindset is like, when everybody's rowing in the same direction, dude, it's unstoppable.
Yeah. And when you bring the right group of talent together, because everybody's bringing something totally unique to the table. Like what Jonathan brings to the table is different than what Yelsey brings to the table. That's different than, what Mike or Eugene or, I know we talked to, what was the guy's name? That's the fabricator there, but everybody brought something totally unique to the table and they were given a space. And I think this is like a lesson, right? Like there are definitely lessons in this for all of us as business owners. They were given the opportunity for their talent and their abilities to shine.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's not about Crystal Clean success was not about like Jeremy being great at everything. And I found out like really what he was great at was setting a vision and then finding the right people.
Mm-hmm.
But he's not great at what Jonathan's great at. He's not great at what Mike is great at. He found the people and then he gave them the place for them to shine.
Yeah.
And when you do that, look what happens. I mean, a business that has 170 people on the ground right there. Jacksonville's not that big of a city, but they service the Southeast. And to build that they were a couple of kids when they got this started passing out phone books. It's not like, there was any, like big jump start. Like they just had grit.
It was, bootstrapping it.
So, man, I think there's a lot to learn in it. And it was really cool. So today, and I know we've danced around this a lot. Today at 1:00, we are premiering this first episode of Grit. It is the pilot of the season. It's an opportunity to show what we want to create with this, what we want to go out and share. And Pat, I'd love to hear about like what your vision is for what we can do with it. But 1:00 today, I'm sure we'll drop a link in this post. We'll be sharing links about it. It's going to be on YouTube. Would love for everybody to check it out. It's good. I think it's good. I don't want to oversell it, but I'm proud of what we made. But Pat, I would love to talk a little bit about like, where are we taking this?
Yeah.
As a thing. And like, what do you see for like what the next pieces are for Grit in the series?
Well, I think there's so many people out there, right? And the vision is to capture that through projects, right? Through fun projects, through team collaboration. And so, we were talking on the way down, like, I think that we can go to a city and we know so many people, right? We've been in the industry for so long where we can pop in at a couple locations. And so I see this where it's, kind of like a fun road trip, but at the same time, meeting those different people, collaborating with those people, and showing just, how unique our industry is in such a close, perimeter, if you will, right, of those towns, and like what's going on and the different uniqueness from the different companies, because not everybody does the same thing. Not everyone is waterproofing. Not everybody is soft washing, right? So there's so many different things, from water towers, right, to stadiums, to apartment complexes, you name it, to flat work, right? So we have so much variety. And so what I'm seeing is like just a collaboration of all the things. So people like contractors can look at it, you know what I mean? Friends and family can look at it. This is going to be for, a broad audience, but also for our industry, right? To see what we have done throughout the evolution, right, of power washing to in what it is now and what it's going to be, right, with drone technology. You see a lot of that going on. So like bringing all that together in a really cool series that we can bring the people, the stories to life, and show the front things, but also pinpoint some things, get some educational piece out of it. Like, how do we go about these things, right? So like people that want to maybe tackle large commercial jobs, right? Like, watch the series, right? Get some tidbits in there. How do we hire top talent? Because we talk about hiring, we talk about all the things. And so I think the vision is like, with yourself and me just going around and capturing this, I think is going to be really fun.
Yeah, you shared a lot of kindness there, Pat. A lot of people in the industry, and I am here to just tag along and help us capture it and explore. I've met, and I don't know everybody, but I have met some amazing people in this industry, and I can think of right off the top of my head a short list. It's like, how much fun would it be to go hang out with them? And you were throwing that idea out while we were traveling down. You're like, dude, and what about this guy? And what if we just like went and hung out with him and like did like some like side by sides, with him, or did this or did that? And I think there's that aspect of it where it's like, who are the people and like what exists even beyond the projects?
Mm-hmm.
For sure. And then on top of that, I was last night, I went on with Dan Plata on his he does it like that. It's like middle of the night for me. Like I go to bed at like 9:00 and like I'm on, it's like 11:00 and we're on like his show. And a guy, I don't know, and I didn't know him before the thing, but Rob Armstrong, do you know Rob?
I don't.
Okay. Dan acted like I was supposed to know who he was. And I didn't, but he was telling me, he was like offline. We got off the thing and he was like, dude, another thing that you may want to do. He was like throwing out, he's like, yeah, why don't we, I know the guy that cleans the space shuttle. I was like, well, that would be cool.
Hmm.
And then he was like, I know this other crew that goes through and they've built this custom rig that cleans these tunnels. And it's like surface cleaners that go up on the walls and stuff. And they've got this like convoy and there's like a reclamation truck and they just move through the tunnel and clean it
That,
like that. And I'm like, that would be so cool. Like, even in the industry, when do you get to see something like that in action where someone's like taking a bunch of different tools and technology and especially adapted it to be really good at something that's happening in the middle of the night that you never would see?
and that's it. You never would see it. Nobody knows that that's going on. So cool.
Yeah, Jeremy was talking about, like I think Kept, one of their subsidiaries, does, I don't know if it was the Brooklyn Bridge or whatever, and
Mm.
like they clean it, or like an Amtrak station. And there is so much cool stuff that I think we can show that's like you might not ever get another chance to see it. But it's like you said, like going to hang out with the people. I would love that. Maybe we, go to like a region and then we go hang out with 3 or 4 people and meet them and see what they do. And I think it's everybody. Like I want to see us bring people together. It's the contractors, but it's also the people that are innovating and servicing the industry too.
Yeah.
Right? Like you have taken a really amazing role to be like an educator. You're also have created products based on your own need for the industry, but then also been a contractor. And I think all of those things have to fit together. I think everybody's working together towards that common goal, whether you're building a truck skid or creating a chemical that helps someone solve a problem that's like totally unique, or, you're Steve, right? And like, you're providing an outlet that gets people the parts and equipment and tools that they need. All of that has to work together for the industry,
Yeah.
right? It's not like this or that. And I want us to celebrate a bit of that and show, that aspect too, because I do think that vendors,
Yep.
play a super important role in what makes it work too. And there's some really cool
Yes.
people that are in that side of the space as well.
Yeah, and their stories too, because that's exactly right. Like as a contractor, you need to have a really good vendor in your corner that's supporting you on different things. Because look, everybody's got a different clean. That's the way I explain it. Everybody's got a different clean. Just look
Yeah.
at vehicles, right? So when you're going to clean something, you might want to dabble in something. You need a good supplier that's going to be there for you, that ships things out, maybe overnights things. Something goes down, right? They need to be in your corner. And so, yes, sharing the love. So everybody's successful, the whole industry. We're like, you know what I mean? We want to see the whole industry rising up like it is.
And I think that's maybe like the legacy that a project like this leaves, is like, how do we help leave the industry like a little bit better than we found it? And you're
Yeah.
talking about vendors, like the first person that comes to my mind is like, we need to go visit Trudy,
Yeah.
because she is that, right? Like,
Yes.
she is that I take care of people that do business with me, like doing whatever it takes to like get them something they need like right away. I know I've heard her tell stories about taking stuff and overnighting stuff.
It's
And
amazing what she
yeah,
does. Yeah.
and those are people that deserve to be celebrated.
Yeah. And solving
For,
problems. Like she goes above and beyond for paint, right? Like
yeah.
interaction. Like she's there. She's like, okay, let me help the industry solve those things. Like watching people rise up to the occasion to do those kinds of things, to be that person, is incredible because every industry needs that person.
So one thing I want to like challenge anybody that makes it this far in our live with is like, who would you want to who needs to be nominated as a contractor, as that vendor that like needs to show up in a future episode? Like I would love to hear that feedback. I think, Pat, you have a really good idea. I have some ideas, but like who do we need to show? And
Yeah.
then like, what project, maybe you're working on it, maybe you're doing a project that's like, yeah, we should check that out. Or maybe of one, of someone doing something and you're like, that would be so cool to see behind the scenes of it, because maybe we haven't thought of it.
Yeah.
Right, maybe we haven't thought of it as we're like putting together this season. you know, the next, I don't know how many episodes it's going to be. Like, I'd like to see us do 10, but
Yeah.
you know, we'll see how it goes. Right.
Yep.
But like, what are those things that you, as like, I'm in the industry, and it'd be so cool if you guys could go get up close with, hang out with this person or show this work, or, you know, whatever that is. I mean, we have some ideas, you know, it's like, on top of what you mentioned, I know that we've talked about, we want to go kind of get behind the scenes of like solar cleaning from
Yeah.
small to large, because I think that's really interesting, because a lot of custom equipment gets built, and it's a lot of unique challenges with access. I was talking with Steve about that, because of the way they install solar on buildings. It's not always easy to get at it.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's so much out there, and I would love to hear from people that are boots on the ground. Like, what do you want to see? Like, what do we need to go out and like get after to make that happen?
Yeah. And I think that's the cool thing too, because like our industry can give us the feedback that we pour into the series. You know what I mean? So this is, you know what I mean, specific. So like, we want you guys' feedback. So give it in the comments. You know what I mean? You could always reach out to me or Brad, and we want to know about the projects. We want to know about the stories, because that's what we're keying in on. And that's what we want the legacy for this to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah. And check it out, and share it. You know, share it with your friends and family. Like, that's one thing that has been in like my vision for the type of media that we want to create. And that's what we're here to do at Structured to Grow, is like, how do we go out and like do things that step outside of the cookie cutter, and like really push the boundaries to mix entertainment, to mix something that's fun to watch and fun to be a part of, but also celebrate the people and provide value, right? Like, that was one of the things, like, how do we like share knowledge in this too? Because I think a transfer of knowledge is important. But I really want to create things. You know, I grew up, my dad was a contractor, and it wasn't always easy for me as a kid to appreciate what he did for a living. And I know now, like, as a business owner, like, my kids don't always get what I do. You know, like, they're like, oh, you know, you're doing your marketing, or you're doing your this, you're doing your that. And like, but when I get to do something and I can show my son a video that we made, he gets that, right? Or a podcast that we've created, he gets that, or read to him out of the book. And I want this to be the kind of thing that if you're in the industry, you can share it with like your kids.
Yeah.
And show them why what you do matters.
Ooh, so good. So good.
So that's a big part of this for me, because I want, you know, I know how hard people that get out there and do the work is. And I know that like we so desperately want to share that with our kids, and maybe they don't do exactly what we do, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But I think there is just like this real need to like pass it on. Right.
Yeah. I'm with you 100%, man. Because at the end of the day, that's what it all, you know, that's what it's all about.
Man, this is exciting. This is really exciting. I'm nervous to share it with the world. You know, we've shared it with you know, a couple dozen people, just kind of like quietly, and it's fun, and I hear good things, but this is like it's a moment, and so I'm super excited for everybody to see it, and
yes,
yeah, hope everybody enjoys it as much as I do.
Yeah, I know they will. I know they will. It was a lot of fun, and you did an amazing job, man, with it.
You know, I have really had a perspective this year, Pat. Like, the projects I'm getting to work on is I'm just a steward that organizes them, you know, and brings together talented people on both sides, on camera and behind the camera, you know, in the editing room. Like, yeah, I know, like, it's like I come up with these ideas, but I'm blown away by the people that help me execute them, because they're talented. It's just like what we're capturing.
Yeah.
You know, and I just get to be a part of it. I just get to kind of be the shepherd that brings the talent together. And then I sit back and I watch what these people can do, what these different creative talents can do, and just be like, wow,
Yeah.
I can't believe we just pulled that off. So, I'm just one piece to the puzzle. I'm honored to be a part, honored to have you being a part of this project. Like, you add so much to what we're doing here that just wouldn't exist. And I see now like there'd be a big missing gap in this if you weren't like on this journey with me. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate it, man, because I'm the same way, right back at you. You know what I mean? To see the whole team, from the video team to the producer, like, you know, I was like, shoot, when I was younger, I was like, I always want to be a movie star.
We're working on it, Pat. We're working
That's
on
right.
it. We're working on it. Hey, who knows? You know, maybe this series ends up on Netflix. So, you know,
Hey,
that would be that. I say that I don't know if that's the right thing, but certainly in my mind of like, you know, there is that dream,
yeah.
you know, that
Hey,
we're
we
like
gotta
the
think
next
big, man.
docuseries on Netflix.
That's right. That would be epic. That would be epic. But again, we can't do it without everybody's support, you know, sharing it out, getting it done, because it's an honor to be able to just be a small part of this giant industry of the stories and, you know, able to, you know, connect. Cause like you said, you know, we know people now across the country that I want to go hang out with. They're like, dude, when you're in town, come hang out. But you know, when we're in town, like it's busy, you're in and out, you just, it's so much, but you want to see everybody. And so this is a way that I can really, you know what I mean? Like go and really dive in to everybody that's out there. So super honored to be able to do it for sure.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for the things that we'll get to do and share.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's super cool. So check it out this afternoon.
Yes.
I think you'll enjoy it. If you have anything, if you're doing any kind of construction or blue collar job, I think what we're touching on will, any small business really, will speak to you, but especially if you're in the and I don't know how exactly we describe the industry. I always kind of get a little tentative. Is it like the pressure washing industry or the wash industry or the exterior cleaning and maintenance industry? But if you're anything close to the industry, I think you'll really like it.
Yeah.
And yeah, we appreciate your support and checking it out, and stay tuned because we are just getting started.
Yes. Awesome, man. Well, good stuff, guys. Make sure you check it out, and we will see you guys 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock.
All right, man. Well, Brad, looking forward to it, dude. I'll be on.
All right.
All right, guys. Have an amazing day. We'll see you on the next one.
Bye, guys.